Welcome to Men of Order. Before we get started, I want to know who's here with me live. So leave me a comment. Let me know who you are and where you are watching from so I can shout you out and show you some love. Listen, guys, Men of Order is not for everybody. Men of Order is for a specific kind of man, a driven man. A man who's about responsibility. See, this is a man who has a lot of things going. He's taking care of business. He's taking care of his family. He's taking care of his money. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders. Now, when it comes to this kind of man, even though he's doing everything, he still feels like something is off in his life. He knows that he has a lot of demands on his plate, but he thinks, you know what? Life shouldn't feel like this. I should feel more composed. I should feel like I have a better handle on my life. Men of Order shows men how to get their life in order. You might have tasks, you might have projects, you might have a lot of responsibility, but this shows you how to handle it all. Now, I'm going to give a shout out to those that are tapping in with me. Shout out to Stuart Uzziah. I see you, brother. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Much shout out to the D. I know that's where he's tuning in from. Shout out to Brother Frederick. I see you, brother. Hey, man, I hope you watched that last session, Brother Frederick. I did that last session for you. On the last session, I had talked about why business becomes unstable, not because of the business itself, but because of your customer. On the last session, I show you how to find the right customer. Make sure you check that out. It was very good. Oh, I see some women of order in the house. I see you, Sister Zanaya, coming from my hometown, Cali. Shout out to Cali in the house. Also, I'm seeing Mrs. Israel tapped in, tuning in from Texas. Once again, if y'all are here, leave me a comment. Let me know that you're here so that I can shout you out. Listen, I want to talk to y'all tonight. Tonight, I want to talk about applying order to your faith. Why is it that we think we got to have order for everything else but our faith? When it comes to how you manage your time, you got to have order. When it comes to how you manage your house, you got to have order. When it comes to how you manage your business, you know you need order. But why is it when it comes to our faith, our spiritual life, we just kind of do things any kind of way? And I'm going to let y'all know something as the head pastor of a church. One thing that I'm very much against is people praying for things based on things that God has already given them. Can I say that again? You pray for things and you ask God for things that he's already given to you. See, I believe that your prayer life should have order. I believe your walk should have order. It says in the Bible, let all things be done decently and in order. That includes prayer. So when you pray to God for things, are you praying in an orderly fashion? Now, today, we're talking about why you're praying, but still feel lost. Hey, shout out to Sir Asaph. You know, I looked at the comments just now and I saw somebody commenting LA in the chat. And I said, who is this? Repping my home city. And it's none other than my brother from another mother, Sir Asaph in the house. Hey, I see you, Chief Brother Araya. Shout out. Georgia's in the house. Georgia's showing love. Listen, man, make sure that y'all smash the like button. Make sure that y'all share this. Today, we're talking about God speaking to you, but you're not writing down what he said. You're so busy praying, God, help me. God, give me a vision for my life. But then when God tells it to you, you're not writing it down. The problem isn't that God hasn't answered your prayer. Your problem is you didn't respect God enough to write down what he said. And we're going to talk about what happens every time God gives you a calling for your life, and then you squander it all because you don't protect it. God spoke, You just didn't write it down. And so, guys, here's what I want us to talk about to start this off. Have you ever gone through a time in your life where you felt lost and you wanted God to guide you and give you a clear purpose, but you didn't feel like you had all of the answers so you could take the next step? I want you to type me if you say, you know what, that's me. Even if it's not you right now, if there's ever been any point in your life where you felt like life was kind of foggy, you felt like, man, I know I want to do great things. I know that God has called me to do something in my life, but I just don't know what it is. Maybe I might have an idea about this. Maybe I might have an idea about that. And yeah, I'm talented, but I don't know how to take my gifts and turn it into something real. If you've ever gone through a time in your life where you felt like you didn't know the path ahead, I want you to type me in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of people that can relate to this. I'm seeing the righteous God says me. Shout out to you. I'm seeing Ariah says me. I'm seeing Brother Frederick says me. And I see your comment, Brother Frederick. You said, I did watch it. You couldn't make it live that day, but you got the gems, and that's all that matters. So, guys, here's what we're going to do in tonight's session. I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process on how to take the calling for your life and make it real so that you can know the next step forward. Gone are the days where we go through the fog of life, not really knowing who we are and what we're supposed to do in the time that we're here. Life is short, guys, and tomorrow is not promised. By the end of this session, you're going to know exactly how to go from feeling foggy, then praying to God to give you direction, but not being able to follow through. After this is all said and done, you're going to understand your calling and how to take the very next step so that you can walk in it. Okay. So I want us to talk about this. You need to understand what the big problem is. If you won't write down what God has called you to do, you won't live it out. If you won't write it down, you won't live it out. That's the problem. Now, again, how does this all start? At some point, you feel cloudy. You feel confused. I'm living, but I'm not really living. I'm breathing, but I don't feel like I'm walking in my purpose. So it makes you feel a certain way. And so you go to God and you ask God to give you enough wisdom and insight, and you ask Him to order your steps. Now, here's the problem. We serve a God that's loving. We serve a God that's all knowing. We serve a God who knew you before you were in your mother's womb. But the problem is, even when God responds to you, because He's merciful enough to give you an answer, you prayed to Him and you wanted to know how you could change your life. The problem is, God answered you, but you never wrote down what the answer was. So what happens? You forgot. And you forgot it so much, you think that God never responded in the first place. And this is where we run into problems spiritually. This is where we start to think that there is no God, that God doesn't love us, that God is not helping us along the way. The problem is God is helping, but He's not doing everything for you. He's given you a sound mind. He's given you all the tools that you need to accomplish what you've been called to do in your life. But you're not going to accomplish it without faith. Now, what does faith mean? Just believe that God is going to see you through it? No. Faith means that you're faithful to the calling and you're showing God his respect by writing it down and walking in it. And we're going to go over that today, guys. If you won't write it down, you won't live it out. Here's how it starts. You feel cloudy in the mind. Man, why am I called to be here? I'm watching other people do great things. I have talents. I have gifts. God, show me the way. And then God puts events in your life to show you what that calling is. You might have stumbled onto something and somebody might have said, you know what? You're good at that. Let me know this, chat. Let me know this. Stuart Uzziah, I see you here. Chief Brother Arai, I see you here. Frederic, even the ladies, I see you here. Have you ever gone through a time in your life where unintentionally you did something and somebody complimented you about what you did? Maybe you said something a certain way. Maybe you dressed a certain way. Maybe you put something together in a way where you thought nothing of it, but somebody said, you know what? You might be really good at this. If you've ever been through that kind of experience, let me know, chat, because I'm trying to show y'all something. If you've ever experienced that kind of moment in your life, that was God answering your prayer. That was a moment right there where God was trying to show you, hey, here's your gift. I didn't make everybody else's gift and forget about yours. I'm showing you the gift right now through other people because guess what? You know that it's a gift because look at how the world responds. I'm seeing what you put, Shemaiah. I'm seeing that you put absolutely. We all go through times in our life where we will do things and we take it for granted. And then we go to God and say, God, I want to give too. God, give me something. But the very things that God has given us, we underestimate it. We undervalue it. It only looks like a gift when it's somebody else walking in their calling. All of the callings that we have, we don't think nothing of it. We pray, we get the clarity, and in a moment in time, we think this might be the way. But you know what? Life happens. So you get that moment of clarity where God shows you the path you could go down in your life. And then it's back to work. Monday, now the real world begins. You go to the job and you have all of these different demands. You got the boss that's telling you this. You've got your family that's telling you that. You see this happening on social media. You see that going on in the news. And before you know it, you start losing clarity on the insight that God gave to you. Have you ever experienced a time like this, guys? Let me know in the chat. Has there ever been a time where you really thought that you were on to something, but you didn't write it down? And then what happened? Monday hit, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and before you knew it, the thought that was once so clear in your mind started to escape you. Have you ever experienced a time where you're in your life where you were like, man, I forgot all about that? You might not have gotten that thought again in your mind until next month, next year, months down the line. This is the reason why us writing things down is so critical. And guys, I want you to think about what happens here, right? Because this is a very important cycle that causes us a lot of problems. What happens whenever you find yourself going through the negative cycle of pray for it, God answers, you don't write it down, and then you forget, and you don't know when you're going to receive another vision about your calling again? Well, time passes by. And you know, the younger you are, the less important time feels. The older that you get, the more you start to realize, man, time is short. Again, right now, I'm pushing 40 years old, and I can still remember my life as a teenager. Never thought that I'd be here. And it felt like time started to move so fast. I remember vividly when I was a teenager, I thought I had all the time in the world. I thought I had all the time in the world to cut up and experiment with this and experiment with that. And you know what? It's all good because I'm still young. But it was that exact same mentality that eventually got me to an older age. And I felt like, man, you know what? Hey, I got to now get with it because I could look up and then I'll be 45 and then I'll be 50 and then I'll be 60. Guys, time is short. And it's not just time that passes, it's opportunity that passes. Think about some of the opportunities that have passed you by in the time that you've gone through life cloudy. You might have had the opportunity to be in a marriage with a great person, but you just kind of went through life in a fog. You weren't sure, were you? There were times where God might have made it clear to you, hey, this is your path to success. Have any of you ever experienced a time where you were blessed with an idea that you knew would take off and you sat on it and time went by and you watched somebody else blow up off of that idea? I know that I've been there, guys. Listen, I can tell you guys about the first time it came to my mind that I was going to tell the world about how I paid off $95,000 in student loan debt. At the time that that came to my mind, I didn't know of anyone else that was publicly talking about the step-by-step process that they used to get out of student loan debt. This was back in 2012. And you know one thing about it, guys, as I was paying off my student loans, I just wanted to get out of debt. But I thought to myself, you know what? People are going to want to know about how I did this. So what did I do? I made a business out of it. And the minute I told people that I got out of my student loans, I started getting all these messages from people asking me, hey, how did you do it? And so I started making YouTube videos. I started a YouTube channel. And I was one of the very first guys, especially Black guys, that was getting on YouTube, walking people through how to win with money. And guys, you know what? At the time, in my early 20s, I took for granted the importance of being consistent over time. Because even though I didn't know then all of the things that I know now about business, you know what's so crazy? If I'd have just stuck with the little that I did know and just keep applying it over and over and over again, man, there's so much opportunity that I could have capitalized on. But I decided to operate in a fog. I decided that even though God was looking out for me, saying, here you go, my son, here's your opportunity to get out of corporate America and make your own way. Even though God gave me a path for me to blaze my own trail in life, I still got caught up in the thick of things, the thick of life. What's going on at the job? What's going on at church? What's going on with my family? And before you know it, I'm tossed to and fro. And see, when you go through that point, now you say to yourself, well, hey, this is going on with my family. So let me take a pause on this. This is what's going on with the church. So you know what? Let me put this other stuff on the back burner. You start tucking your dream to the side and you let life get in the way. And that's one of the biggest reasons why so many people forget what they've been called to do. But that's the reason why so many people, before they die, they say in their older age, you know what I regret? I regret the fact that when I felt my calling in life. I didn't go all in. I regret the fact that I didn't have the courage to go all in when I had the opportunity. Guys, the opportunity is right now. But if you allow life to get in the way, it can rob you of your precious time. It can damage your family relationships. It can damage a lot of things, and it can put you in a spirit of shame because now you look back at your life and you say, man, where did time go? Where did my opportunity go? You don't want that to be you. Guys, we're going to talk about this tonight. I'm going to open up the doors for you to speak with me. We're going to talk in a live conversation so that I can help you identify your calling and your next steps. Guys, the kind of help that I give people on these sessions is usually what people would pay to get from someone to walk them through a step-by-step plan. But I do it live right here for free so that you have clarity to walk in your calling. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put the link in the comments for y'all. I'm going to put it in right now just so you can get yourself ready, okay? Make sure you're in a quiet place so that way you and I can talk and I can get to the bottom of what's holding you back from walking in your calling. Now, before we talk live, I want to read a scripture to you. This comes from the book of Isaiah, the 30th chapter and the 8th verse. It reads, "Now go, write it before them in a table and note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come, forever and ever." Why is this verse so important? This verse is telling you the vision is already there. You have to write it down and then walk in it forever and ever. You've got to be faithful to your vision. You know, a lot of times when people talk about their faith, it's just kind of like this loose thing. But why is it that if you have faith, you never take the time to write down what you've been called to do and be faithful to it? You know, I want to look at some of these comments because y'all are saying some good things. The righteous God says, when I first came into the truth, I used to take much more notes. Okay, well, why is it that you don't anymore, the righteous God? I'm very curious. Tell me more about that. Why is it that over time in your walk, you started writing less? I'm very curious. Mrs. Israel says, I will know that I've received something powerful, will tell myself that I'll remember it because of the importance. Then I'll lose the thought and will be so mad that I didn't write it down. How many of y'all can relate? Let me know in the comments if you can relate to what she said. Sometimes you get these powerful thoughts. Sometimes it comes in the form of a dream. And you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to remember that. And then you wake up and then the dream is gone. Sometimes you might go through the day. Something might hit you. Maybe you daydream. You tell yourself you write it down, but you never will. You tell yourself you remember and you end up forgetting. How often do we miss out on opportunities simply because we don't take the time to write it down? And why is it that we don't write it down, guys? Why are we so quick to make excuses? We'll say, you know what, I'm not writing this down because I'm busy. But is the thing that we're doing more important than the vision that we just received? Maybe God loves us enough that he gave us the vision at a time where we knew what we were doing was not more important than the vision itself. It wasn't during an emergency. There's been plenty of times where you might have had the time and the opportunity to write it down, but for whatever reason, you didn't. And so I want us to talk about that more in the comments. Stuart Uzziah says he agrees with the righteous God of Mrs. Israel that he can relate to it. Again, go write it before them in a table and note it in a book. that it may be for the time to come forever and ever. Now, a lot of times when we think about the book, we think about the Bible. But what about your own book? What about the book of your life's vision? What about the book of your calling? If you can understand how a book has power, then why wouldn't you tap into the power of a book by writing down the steps that you need to take in your own life? If for nothing else, to make sure that you don't forget. The scripture is saying to write it down and put it in a place where you can see it again, not just let it go in one ear and out the other. Write it down. The righteous God says, I kind of felt neglected, so I fell back and started watching online mostly instead of fellowshipping as much. I really started focusing on timestamps and video notes. See, this is what I'm saying. Sometimes we will already have the spirit to want to write things down, and then life happens, and then that motivates us to stop writing things down. But that's not really what we should do. What we got to do is we got to write things down and keep writing things down, regardless of what life does. Because what happens? Every time we receive things, we will feel a way for a moment in time. You might feel excited, you might feel motivated, but then life happens, things get in the way, and then the very feeling that would have given us the opportunity, it starts to fade in our life. And our only saving grace is what is written. I mean, let's talk about that. Even when it comes to the Bible itself, for all my believers, how many times have you gone through moments in your life where you might have felt discouraged spiritually and you didn't look to what the scripture said? Leave me a comment. How many times have you gone through times in your life where, you know what, I'm going through a hard time, I'm taking on a lot, and I'm not really in the word right now like I should be? Let me know if that applies to you. Have you ever thought about how grateful you are that God's word has been written down? So whenever you're ready to reconnect with God, He's already waiting for you. Why? Because it's written. Now, just imagine the disservice you would do to yourself if the word was never written and you only received everything about God's will just for a moment in time. The righteous God says, I have a song I can share with you. I wrote it over 10 years ago. Can't wait to hear it. And so this is what we got to talk about for tonight, guys. What I'm talking about for tonight is whenever we put ourselves in places where we receive visions and then we let it go by the wayside. Here's what's really happening. These are times in your life where you pray for change, but because you don't write it down, you stay stuck in the same place. You stay stuck doing the same things because you haven't decided to take the next step forward. Sometimes we feel intimidated. We may know the next step, but we say to ourselves, you know what? I'll take the next step tomorrow. I don't feel like right now I'm ready to take that step. But you know the step that we really need to focus on? Making sure that we have whatever the next step is written down so it's not forgotten completely, so that we don't drift, so that we don't lose sight of it. So here's what I'm going to talk about in today's session: building the habit of documented every important thing that you need to keep in mind. Documenting your goals, your vision, your calling. This is one of the key reasons why more people are not successful. And studies even show this. People who write down their goals and tasks are far more likely to accomplish it than people who don't. So, what I want us to talk about tonight is creating a system where every time you know that there's something that you need to do, you write it down. Every time you know you want to have goals and ambitions, you write it down. Stop just keeping it all in the mind. One of the reasons why you might have a lot of anxiety is because you keep it all in the mind. You're trying to remember all of your goals. You're trying to remember everything you got to get done at work. You're trying to remember what you got to get from the grocery store. And the more that you store in the mind, the more the mind feels cloudy. The more the mind feels cloudy, the more it weighs your spirit down. The more you feel daunted. Have you ever felt like, man, I'm going through it right now? Why? Because I got so much to do. We need to start documenting everything, guys. Okay. Me personally, I document everything on a digital device. I have a smartphone app that allows me to document everything. I like to use Trello to keep a log of everything that I need to get accomplished. And I can use it on my laptop. I can use it on my phone. A lot of times like to use my iPhone notes. And the reason why I like to use it digitally is because I have it wherever I go. You know, sometimes if you only write things down on paper, if you leave the paper on the desk, by the time that you go somewhere else, if you didn't bring the paper with you, now it's gone. And so being able to log everything digitally in a secure place, it gives you the ability to see what you need to do regardless of where you are. And I just want to make this very simple. We can talk about a one-page habit. On the one-page habit, you can write down 3 lines. What I believe God is telling me to do with my life, what I must stop doing, and what I must do next. And that's just going to be one step. Guys, I'm about to bring the live guests on, but before I do, I want us to focus on the one-page habit. We're making a habit of taking it from our head and writing it down. You're writing down 3 things. Number 1, what has God called me to do? To the best of your understanding, write that down. Because the more that it's written down, the clearer it is. The more you keep it in the mind, the more foggy it is, the more unclear it is in your head. Write down, what do you believe your path is in this life? What do you believe that you're supposed to do? How are you supposed to do it? Where are you supposed to be? When is it supposed to get done? Write the calling down. Next, you need to write down what you got to stop doing in order for that vision to come to pass. This is what stops most people from realizing their dream. They think, okay, as long as I know what the vision is, that's all good. But for every great calling that God gives you, there's something you'll have to sacrifice. Think about whenever God tempted Abraham and said, hey, if you're going to walk with me, be willing to sacrifice your firstborn son. Now, of course, that didn't happen, but the principle is clear. In order to walk in God's calling, there's times where you need to be ready to sacrifice. So, what are you willing to sacrifice in order for the vision to come to pass? Let's say you want to start a business. What are you going to sacrifice? Maybe going out to eat with friends every day after you get off of work. You know, maybe you can't just come home and watch TV all night. Maybe you got to get to work. Maybe you might not be able to wake up right before you go to your 9 to 5 job. Maybe you need to get up hours earlier so that way you have a fresh mind to work on your business before the 9 to 5 wears you out. Guys, that's what I did when I started my business. I would have to go to work at 9, but I would wake up 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just to make sure that I was giving myself multiple hours to put my vision into practice. Okay. What are you going to stop doing so that way you can start doing what you've been called to do? Because chances are you won't be able to do everything. And what must you do next? What's the very next step that you need to take to get one step closer to your goal? The reason why I always focus on one step is because I know that you got a lot going on. And I want to make it very clear for you. Yes, I know you might feel tired. I know that you're carrying a lot of weight, but that's why we always operate with one step. So that way we could accomplish one thing to get us started. We don't need to have everything all figured out. We just need to take one step forward. So if y'all are ready to take one step forward to walk in your calling, I want you to put step in the comments right now. And while you're doing that, I'm about to bring on the live guests. For those of y'all that want to cam up with me and figure out how you can walk in your calling, all you got to do is click the link in the comments below. I'm putting it on the screen so that way you can see the link as well when you come on. Make sure that you have YouTube off in the background so no one hears an echo when you talk. Make sure that you're in a quiet place so that way, we can have a really good dialogue and I can help you as much as possible. We got my brother on right now. We're going to get into it. It's good to see you again, man.
Shalom, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
All right, so let's talk about this, man. I want us to talk about how we could take one step forward towards your calling. Before we get into it, please let the people know your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Joshua Ben Israel. I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
Brother Joshua from Austin, Texas. All right. So, in one sentence, Brother Joshua, what do you believe God is telling you to do that you still haven't written down?
Well, I've written it down, just not in great extent. Like I had told you that song. I'll send it to your email and you can tell me what you think about it. But what I wrote down so far is God has called to present every man perfect. So, and then I wrote down I have to be a willing, a walking example of His will to be clearer to it to others. So it will be clearer to others, and then I have to sacrifice time on unessential tasks so I can be able to get to that goal.
Okay. All right. So, I'm liking that you started to write this down. Great job.
Thanks.
Now, in terms of the calling, what is the calling to the best of your knowledge?
Uh, just walking in the light. However, I can serve others. That's what I think the calling is.
Okay, so let's do this because I'm hearing you say walk in the light, and however I'm called to serve others. That's really what I want to unpack. Sometimes if you don't know like what the exact answer is, let's find out what the answer is not. So let me ask you this way. What do you think you're not supposed to do as you walk in God's calling?
Well, I just got out of jail today, and I know that God does not want me to be in jail. So I know that's
Okay.
one thing.
Okay, that's very good, and I'm happy that you're out. Okay, so let's break that down. So what should you not do to not be in jail?
Well, in this situation, I also got I'm homeless now. I got kicked out of my house, but be less. Don't be disrespectful to parents,
Okay.
things of that nature, because you end up in places you don't want to be.
Okay, I got you. So when we talk about this calling, there are some really important things that we got to define to make sure that we're able to accomplish everything that you just said and more. Now, for us as men, there has to be some path for us to provide for ourselves as well as for our family. And I'm pretty sure that you want to have a path that doesn't place you aside from God. So you don't want a path that takes you away from God, and you don't want a path that's going to put you back in a jail. Are those two things true?
Right.
Okay, so what would you do in order to make a life for yourself that allows you to stay on a straight and narrow and provide for yourself and your family? Do you have any idea of any of the talents and gifts that you can bring to life to satisfy that?
Well, like I had told you in the comments, I was feeling kind of neglected, not being able to fellowship as much. I recently, well, over the past 2 years, have been getting closer with a brother named Azaniah here in Austin, and I would like to do learn more about God, like the feast days, actually do them and come out of the Gentile ways of life and just really get a stable income and do what I need to do to be able to provide consistently.
Okay. So what are you thinking you're going to do in terms of the income? I'm hearing the fact that you're trying to get more involved spiritually. How are you going to be able to pick a path to make a living for yourself so you can have a place to stay that is also aligned with you spiritually? I've heard you mention song. I think on the last time that we talked a little bit about you operating in construction, doing some of that work. What do you see being the path that you can take so that way you can make a way for yourself? Because remember what the scripture says, right? It says, um, if any man does not work, neither should he eat. So what is going to be the best way that you think that you can work to provide for yourself?
Well, like you said, first construction, because the scriptures say, do not abhor laborious work. So that's one. I also want to study the stock market. I've been seeing certain things there that I would like to invest in. Um, Also, it's possible maybe start like a business, whether it be like a, because I'm big on health and I need to do better in that area. So maybe like a juicing business or just something that is in regards to food. Um, it's a number of things. I just have to get it written down and form a plan, like you say, and actually be consistent with it.
Okay. So I'm glad that you said that. So here's how we're going to move forward. And I want you to see something very important, Brother Joshua. When everything is in our head, it stops us from getting clarity on what the real next step is. Because, if I ask you, like, hey, well, what do you think you're going to do in order to, provide for yourself? You might think, well, you know what? I could do this, or I could do this. And I'm also thinking about this. But the problem is, all of these different paths could work, but it's not going to work if it just stays an idea. And it's also not going to work if we try to do everything at once without a very clear path on what to do first, second, and third. So, based upon your life situation right now, what I believe that you should do is first, you should write down all of the potential opportunities that interest you. I want you to just get that out of your head so that way you can put it on paper and begin to look at it. Because one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to decide which path we should take on right now. You can have multiple ideas of something that you should do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it right now, today. You might do it next year, you might do it 2 years from now, but we need a right now plan. We need to identify a next step. You
Okay.
spoke, you spoke about construction. Okay, let me ask you this. Is there anything that you can see yourself doing for the next 20 to 30 years of your life?
Uh, yeah, I, honestly, just serving the Most High. That's really the thing that I try to focus the most on. As far as work, I mean, I've already been doing construction for, like I say, the last 7, maybe 10 to 12 years.
Hmm.
I probably could take up learning about songwriting and do something in that area. You can tell me, like I say, after I send you the song. Um, but
Okay, in terms of a career path, what can you see yourself doing for the next 20 to 30 years? I get the fact that you are looking to really stay in tune with the Most High. And like I said, if a man doesn't work, neither should he eat. So as a man stays in tune with the Lord, he has to know, okay, how is he going to apply what the scripture says about providing for himself, providing for his family, etc. In terms of a actual career path, are you thinking that you could do construction for the next 20 to 30 years, or are
I
you
think,
thinking songwriting the next 20 30 years?
well, really, I would like to go do content creation because it could all be documented and recorded. And I know, like, I've heard people making millions of dollars off of YouTube. So I would like it to be in content creation with all of those things as attributes of it.
Okay, I got you. I got to tell you this, and I got to be honest. Right now, you have to get focused. Okay, we're talking about construction, we're talking about content creation, we're talking about songwriting. But if you just got out of jail, you got to put yourself on a path to where you can provide for yourself as soon as possible, get stability, and then as you build on your stability, other opportunities can open up in time. Because here's what happens, like when we talk about content creation, which I know a lot about, that's not something that is going to happen overnight in terms of it prospering, right? I know on YouTube you might see people who really hit it big, but that typically is not an overnight process. And so, what I'm saying is, based upon where you are right now, we have to have a very clear next step on, okay, what am I going to do to apply what the scriptures say about providing for myself today as soon as possible? Now, based upon everything that I'm hearing, I believe your construction path, if for nothing else, is based on your own experience and skill that you currently have. I think that that's something that you can do in order to, put a roof over your head, and it's something that you can build off of, but you really need to develop a more focused skill and path with it. If you've been doing construction for several years, but you found yourself kind of going through a space where, I didn't feel like I was making that much money. Well, now we need to figure out, well, why wasn't I making as much money as I could have made from that path? We need to identify what skills you have in construction, um, maybe defining a goal in that field to give you stability. But then, as you're gaining that stability through construction, you can say to yourself, well, you know what? Even though this is putting a roof over my head right now, I may not want to do construction for the next 20 to 30 years. And that's okay. This is just going to hold me over for now. But in the background, I'm going to be working on the actual business that I want to pursue for the next 20 to 30 years. You got to get clear on what that business is going to be. But like I'm saying, the thing that I really want to caution you about right now, Brother Joshua, is having too many ideas operating at too many different times, between songs, between content, between construction, between stock investing. There's a certain sequence where these things may play out. If I were in your shoes, the very next step that I would take, so if I were in your shoes right now, I would develop a 1 and 5 year plan. If I were in your shoes, I would start developing a 1 year plan so that way I could figure out how I would get stability in my life as quickly as possible. Because there's no need for me to think about what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years from now if I don't know, like where my next meal is coming from, or if I don't know what my next kind of stability is going to look like. So in this 1 year plan, I'm going to take my current skill set and I'm going to bring it to the marketplace in a way to where I can make a stable income. I'm going to be tunnel vision on that right now. Now, when it comes to everything else, I'm not going to forget about it because I do have it written down. I'm going to get that first foundation under me. I've got my job, I've got stability, I'm doing what I need to do as a man according to what the word says. Okay, now I've got that in place. Now I'm going to reevaluate where I want to be for the future. Some of the questions that I might ask myself is, how long do I see myself working in construction? Am I just working in construction for this year? Or am I going to work in construction for the next 5 years? If I'm going to only be working in construction for this year, then I need to start thinking about what I'm going to put in place after this year is done, because I'm going to still need to make a way for myself after this year. So after I get done with my construction job, I might need to start learning some other skills, or I might need to be developing something else in the background. If I'm going to be doing construction for the next 5 years, then I might want to actually learn more about the trade. I might want to build up more skills. If I'm going to be in construction for the next 5 years, I won't get so focused on all of these other opportunities. Because if I get focused on all of these other opportunities, whether it's content, whether it's music, it may take me away from building that skill set if I'm not careful. It's possible that you can do other things on the side, but you've got to have time blocks that's focused on developing the skills that's going to keep a roof over your head. So start by really identifying what your 1 year and 5 year plan is going to be. That 1 year plan, it needs to be very specific and very focused on one path. Even if it's not what you want to spend the rest of your life doing, you got to really focus on what you need to be doing right now just so you can get stability and you can stay responsible. What you got for me?
I would think that the 1 to 5 year plan, the first year would be, since I already have a background, it would be day labor. In day labor, I did cleaning, like apartments. The big trash cans out there, you fill them up with
Yeah.
that type of stuff. I've also been learning roofing, as I told you last time. So develop a more or fine tune that skill, and then you say like oh for housing, I would have to maybe get a tent, maybe go to like more tabernacle route for right now, and just basic necessities, staying clean, all that type of stuff. But then preparing a food pantry, I got to get like a car or some transportation. The reason why I wasn't as consistent in that area of day labor is because I had lost my car. So now I paid off my driver's license. I just need to go take a driving test to get my license back, and then I can start putting essentials in a car and just building for that 1 to 5 year period. Then I would like to get into some type of computer literacy, like learn some type of C, like a computer language, so I could code and things like that. Because I know that with the rise of AI and all of that type of stuff, um, I would need to be knowledgeable in those areas as well. Because if we enter Industry 4.0, or as things, robots, you know how they can replace jobs and stuff like that. Just being able to know how to program a robot, that'll be beneficial.
Okay. Let's go back to this year 1 plan. I heard you mention that you had cleaning opportunity as well as roofing. You got to pick one and get after it. Let's identify right now which path you're going to strive to go down after this call, or if you're going to do cleaning or if you're going to do roofing. And the
Well,
reason I'm saying this is because when you go back to the previous sessions that I worked on, Brother Joshua, I talked about how the reason why a lot of people are getting capped on their income or they don't have job stability is because they cannot very quickly express a problem that they solve and then present the solution to the problem to the market that's looking for it. And this is why I keep saying we can't be vague about like which direction we're going to go in. So which between the two, which avenue do you think that you can get in fairly quickly that will also start to generate some income for you as much as you need?
well, as I told you earlier, these are my two options. So if I do day labor, that's about from $70 and $100 a day, about 8 hours a day. That will be clean up whatever they have me to do, whatever it is. But the thing is, usually you have to have a car or depend on somebody else for transportation to get to and from work. So
Mhm.
that's a maybe. But then if I do roofing, it may be from 20 to maybe 60, maybe $100 a day, but it's not as consistent as the day labor because it's not as professional. And I told you some of the things that I was dealing with that employer.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, the day labor opportunity is more consistent. You just need transportation to get there. And
Yes.
when it comes to the roofing, it may not be as consistent. So, okay. So if I'm you, then I'm figuring out how can I get um, to whatever the day labor opportunity is going to be, because that sounds like more of the sure bet. And I don't necessarily think that you need to have a car per se to be able to make it work. If I'm you, I'm just trying to find as many opportunities as I can to find transportation. So what it really sounds like right now is, there's a transportation um, problem that you got to solve. You got to figure out how you're going to be able to get to the day labor job. But again, what I'm trying to do right now, Joshua, is I'm trying to get us down a clearer path. I'm trying to remove all of these other things because again, man, like I was saying, you're all over the place in terms of the various opportunities, and this is how so many people end up kind of getting caught up in not getting where they need to be financially because there's so many opportunities in this modern day that people are actually drowning in opportunities. You mentioned coding, you mentioned content creation. All of these things are awesome. But see, the thing about it is, in all of these different avenues, people who have mastery in any of these avenues are always going to be in high demand. Even with AI, there's always going to be demand for people who have mastery level skills in any of these paths. But the problem is, we won't get to that end if we're dabbling in all of these things at once, not developing mastery in any, or the minute where we consider starting one thing, we then end up jumping to another thing. And so, right now, what I want you to do is I want you to start looking into these day labor positions. Try to find the day labor opportunities that are closest right now to where you live. Look for the ones that are consistent. Find out how you're going to be able to get there without a car. Figure out how to get some stability under your feet, and then once you get that going, now we can continue to build from there. This doesn't mean we don't take on other opportunities. It means that we just focus on our next step. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So look into that. Follow up with me on the next session, and then we'll go from there. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm praying for you, my brother. All right. All right, guys. So, did you see what we went over in that talk? You see, Joshua, he has many different visions of opportunities. And if he puts his mind to any of them, he can make a lot of progress. But we got to focus on the next step. And guys, I would say a lot of times it's so much easier to think 5 to 10 steps down the line than it is to think about the very next step. Because sometimes when you think about the very next step, it makes you have to take action. We know 5, 10 steps down the line, maybe I could wait, I could dream about it, but right now on the next step is going to take a little bit more effort. Guys, if you're getting a lot of value from today's session, make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure that you support the work. We're talking about how God has spoken to you about your calling. You just didn't write it down. So now let's talk about the one order move. I want us to talk about how we can go from, again, having all of these thoughts in our mind, then life happens, and then we lose it all. Okay, let's talk about how to make this real. Every day, I want you to develop the habit of writing down your goals, tasks, and responsibilities as soon as the thought comes to your head. The minute, almost treat it like a game, guys. The minute that a thought comes to your head about what you need to do, I want you to create a method of capturing it. So, like I said, I already told you guys what I do. I use the Trello app where it allows me to create a brand new card every time I have a thought about something that I need to do, so that I don't have to spend all day thinking about that task. As soon as it comes to my head, I immediately write it down. I want you guys to do the same thing. So that way you don't lose what you're supposed to do. You might get a thought that comes to your mind, and then you have to step inside your job. But you want to make sure you didn't forget about what you got to do. When you write it down, it makes sure that you're able to follow up on it at a later time. Okay. I want you to start doing daily check ins of everything that you've written down. This could be at the start of your morning. You can review the list of everything that you wrote down, and then you start organizing it. Okay, these are the things that I wrote down today, but these are the things that I'm going to accomplish today. These are the things that I'm going to do tomorrow. Okay, I wrote these things down. These are the things that I'm going to do maybe by the end of the week. We need to take the time to document everything that we need to do and then apply order to when we are going to do it. You see, when I was talking to Joshua, I wasn't saying that he couldn't do any of the thoughts that came to his mind. I was telling him when he should consider doing them. If you need to put food on the table, there's certain things that you need to be doing right now. But if you are well established and you got everything running on autopilot, then there might be better times to work on other things. I want you guys to leave me a comment right now, chat. I want you to tell me about what you're going through as you're trying to document things so that you can get one step ahead. I want you to tell me about, are you documenting things right now? Let me know yes or no. Because remember when I was talking to Joshua, he was saying, yeah, you know what? I'm starting to write things down, but it's not clear enough. Remember when he and I first started talking, he was saying that, yeah, I've written down the fact that I do feel called by God to walk in a life, but what does that mean? That's what we need to get clearer. That's the reason why I tell you the importance of writing things down, is so that you will know how clear you are and if you're able to actually take the next step. The reason why so many of us can't take the next step is because the steps are not clear enough and it's so vague. So when we go through our daily exercise, we look at everything that we've written down and we see, okay, Is this written down in a way to where I can take a clear next step? So, for example, if all you're doing is writing down, you know what, think about the business. I want you to think about that a little bit differently, guys. I want you to think about, okay, well, what specifically in the business do you need to focus on? Because the more vague you make the instruction, the less likely you are to actually do something. The more specific you write something down, the more likely you are to take action. So instead of think about the business, what I want you to do is identify, um, are you going to create a product or a service for your business? I want you to define who your target market is. Remember, in the last session, we talked about finding the right customer. I want you to be very clear about where you're going and what you're going to do. The more clearly you can make it on paper, the more likely it is to turn into reality. Okay, so let's talk about this, guys. You should be writing things down regarding managing your money. You should be writing things down regarding your work tasks. You should be writing things down regarding your health. Put it down on paper. And so I want you to make a habit of writing it down and then reviewing it day by day. You should have a weekly review where you could see everything that's in front of you. And in that weekly review, you're just simply ordering what should get done when. Before you know it, guys, trust me, you're going to have enough on your plate to where you know exactly what you need to get done today, exactly what you need to get done in the next 2 weeks, and what things are good ideas that should happen at a later time. But if you never write it down, you're never going to know the sequence of what should get done first, second, and third. Guys, here's what I do. When I write everything down, I then identify what must get done today. The things that must get done today, I'm only going to narrow that down to the top 3 to 5 things. I know you might think you could get more done in a day, but watch. When you start going through this exercise, you're going to see I could only do but so much. You're not able to do everything today. You got to start making sacrifices. You got to start saying no to a lot more things so you can focus clearly. Okay. I want you to make sure that you start getting the practice of writing things down, guys, because again, the issue here is you pray to God to give you a calling. He's responded to you. But because you were not documenting what he said, it now has escaped you. I want you guys to leave me a comment on how you're going to improve this in your life going forward. Because in the next session, we're going to talk about why your phone is winning. Why is it that your phone is winning, but you feel like when it comes to reaching your goals, you're losing? Your phone is winning because you have not decided how to use your attention effectively. Your attention is a very important gift. That's one of the most important gifts that you're going to have in your life. And so we're going to talk a lot about your phone because a lot of people don't realize how much time they spend on their phone and how bad it takes them away from accomplishing their biggest calling in life. We pick up our phone, we text message, we get on the phone at any given time, we're constantly scrolling, and we think nothing of it, but it really does take us off our pivot. So on the next session, we're going to talk about how we can reorganize our life in a way to where our phone does not rob us of our most critical times so that we can have better control of the day, get more accomplished, and have better results. That's going to be this Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, guys. Mark your calendars, okay? I want to make sure that you tap in with me. If you enjoyed today's session, make sure that you support the work, smash the like button. And on that session that we're going to have next, we're going to make sure that we don't just walk away distracted. We're going to walk away with focus. Today, you shouldn't just walk away with the feeling. Whatever your calling is, it's time to write it down and identify your next step to walk in it. Love y'all. All right. Until next time, walk in order, brothers. Peace.